Well, I've got everything packed up and I'm heading back to the big city. So I've been outside Portland about 72 hours now. And I mentioned before in other videos that my physical appearance tends to have a fairly stressed out look to it whenever I'm in the city. Smoking cigarettes or not smoking cigarettes. To the point where people think that I'm suffering from some other mental disorder. And I'm reminded of how much the city makes me sick every time, like physically sick, ill. And being around so many unhealthy men and women, in particular women, that are transmitting so much hatred, selfishness, and things of that nature, the lack of love. While nature can be somewhat isolating and lonely, it's good for the body to be in motion, whether it's spring, whether it's summer, whether it's fall, whether it's winter. But in particular, in line with the seasons. When we're disconnected from nature, we're disconnected from a sense of true health. Somebody made some comments about how this place looked horrible, it was dry, and I got a little upset, but I realized people have a right to their own opinion. Just so people are aware, things aren't as they seem when you're looking at things through YouTube. Okay, this is private property, and I'm really blessed to have been invited up here for a few days. And sometimes just a few days is just enough to, make one feel a lot better, sharpen the senses, increasing the sensitivity in a positive way. Because we shouldn't become numb and blunted, non-feeling robots. We should remember what it means to be human. So this is a rainforest. And as I speak, the clouds are opening up. And so there's a lot more rain in this particular part of the Northwest. And there's also sunshine coming up. So as I leave this road today, I'm kind of taking my time, taking in the last couple of minutes while I'm here. It might not be a bad idea to walk a few more minutes up the trail in gratitude. And I'll tell you what, the parents of the couple that invited me up, and like I said, I knew the guy for a couple of years, used to work at Access TV. So some people that have known me for years, they trust me. It's the people that don't know me that put up a wall and make assumptions. And humanity really shows its sick side in the comment section every now and then. But that aside, they were really friendly to me, them and the parents, and I'm not used to that. And in fact, I don't really know how to react when people are being nice to me and trusting of me and asking me how I'm doing and trying to engage me in conversation and, offering me some cake because it's someone's birthday and they say, hey, let's go socialize with the parents. Those things terrify me because people started to terrify me. And in the city they do because they show teeth. And especially women in today's society that are succumbing to the neo-feminist mentality. And it's painful because just like cell phone signals are unhealthy, so are the signals being sent out by humans. So being in the city, I have a lot of practice trying to become stronger, healthier, more resilient. The current circumstances, or the circumstances of the last couple of years, have done anything but break me. The question is, where am I going to be a year from now? What will I be upgrading to? How much more self-sufficient may I become economically? I almost have enough earned via AdSense to maybe afford some office space, or to, not quite enough yet, but one of the things that I'm hoping for, the rent is a lot cheaper when you get outside Portland, is to find a place or an office or a place I can watch, and especially a place where I can volunteer some time, do a little work, maybe make a little extra money in an area where there's things like that going on and thriving, where I have a couple connections into the community. So hey, I need someone to work. Oh, hey, I know this guy Alex. He's actually staying over at so-and-so's property. Yeah, he just started renting the small room. Yeah, he's a strong, that type of connection. The city isn't like that. And some of the people that watch some of these videos don't really know what America's becoming, especially cities like Portland, especially in terms of the job scene, the work scene, what's available. And so I would like to be in a place where there are things that are thriving. But I'm not sitting there taking the advice from the audience. I'm going to stop doing that, and I'm no longer going to be asking for help at all from people in Portland, because it usually ends up in a emotional roller coaster situation that really should never have happened to begin with. So with that, we're getting actually the first rays of sun right now. The sun is coming out on cue. Usually, when I'm in nature for a few days, I race back to the city. It's like, all right, got my 3 days in, and I'm glad I stayed another day instead of coming back yesterday. Now, I don't know where I'm going to be going tomorrow or later tonight, but I'll tell you what. Yeah, let's go this way. I went up this way the other day. Alex's thoughts from rural Washington. It was shot up there. We're going to go this way for a little bit. A lot of people ask me, Alex, why don't you get a dog? I don't believe in having other forms of life as property. I don't mind having a companion if I was living somewhere and I was creating a stable environment for the dog. But a lot of people get animals for their own benefit, and sometimes the animals suffer. And I think it takes a real man to say, hey, you know what? I would rather the dog be in a happy situation than miserable, stuck with me in some of my travels. Even though I have been warm enough and I've never suffered frostbite, and I think my body temperature actually runs a little high. I don't think that's going to be hard for any of you to imagine. So, there's a number of reasons why I don't have a dog, but it's out of true compassion for those animals that I don't subject them to a life on the road. I'm aware that some dogs enjoy that, but I'm not really interested in impressing other people whether I have a dog or not. And I think that people should show more concern with a human being than, hey, why don't you get a pet? People are out of touch with why other people are suffering. And people like me on the planet exist pretty much for a few core purposes. Those purposes may not be to make a lot of money, or even to procreate, or to have a castle. And I may or may not even build a home. But I think at some point I will, because the body craves it, like the body craves a steak. No offense to those of you that are vegetarian, or the way the body craves quinoa, for those that are vegetarian and healthy foods. The body craves building a home. Just like the body at times craves a mate, or someone to love. A lot of men lose themselves, though, in that biological desire. And I believe that we should put out our intentions to not lose ourselves, to stay grounded, and be focused on being the best men or people, if you're a woman watching this, that we can be. To know the inherent difference between right and wrong. To not use our free will to violate the free will of others. To walk peacefully, There's no need to obsess on whether or not we're stepping on ants. But you know what? If you see an ant and it's below the foot, do you really have to step on it? One time I saw someone kill a whole bunch of ants, and she asked the question, I wonder if ants have feelings. And then I was aware why there was such a separation between me and her, even though I have feelings for her. Did. She doesn't have regular human empathy, because if she did, she would have never just... And you know what? Some people can't handle that truth. Some people don't have compassion for other forms of human life. That's why when I suffer, they don't seem to have feelings. But it's okay, because when we lose our attachment to other people caring for us or showing affection, we free ourselves. We free ourselves from chains, from bondage. And I think that we're here on this earth to begin a very deep process of freeing ourselves. Physical freedom is a gateway drug to the spiritual freedom that we should be experiencing. I think this area, I think being in nature is good for my complexion, it's good for my heart, it's good for my hair, it's good for my, it's good for everything. It's good for my voice. It's good for the information, it's good for the cause. I hope that I'm going to stumble upon a situation where I can rent a property. I need less than the average person needs. I can come up with a poop bucket. Sorry to get graphic. I can cook without a conventional stove. If it's a large enough space, there's no harm in using a propane stove for a couple of minutes. They do it at restaurants these days when they have a big enough space. So I literally can live in a barn. I can live in my trailer. I have no limitations. I'm not dependent. I think that's why some people get mad at me and they start getting angry. How do you do this? How do you make your money? What's going on with you? You have a job yet? I want to know. I want to do data collecting. I'm not letting the YouTube audience do data collection on Alex Ansary. Haven't any of you had parents that said, hey, it's really rude to call someone rich or to call someone poor? Like, you know, I had a lot of disagreements with my parents about certain things, but I remember one thing my mom instilled, a certain sense of being polite when it came to people of certain economic statuses, you know, and not make those assumptions, especially verbally. And I appreciate that. And I think that there are some people in this world that are spending way too much time judging people on whether they're working or not, whether they're, what their appearances are like, what kind of music they like. I've always liked the 70s, and I've always come across people who thought it was weird that I was not listening to music of my own generation. People are like assholes. Everybody has one. And some of you have some really interesting things to say, and a lot of you sometimes, you know, I'll look at a video and all the comments is just fecal matter. You know, and then I have to exercise patience to go, okay, these people somehow are reacting negatively to the video because of some button that it pushed. And I think what I am is a reminder to a lot of men that you can be free, but you got to take certain sacrifices. And a lot of people somehow want to argue that concept without maybe even knowing that they're arguing that concept. So they'll say shitty things without realizing that they're being shitty. Well, I realize why they're being shitty. And as you guys start feeling shitty, I want to remind you why you're feeling shitty. Whatever animosity somebody may have towards me, I think you're going to have to look in the mirror and address what's missing in your life. And whatever it takes for you to boost your own spirit to go, you know, maybe I can live free too. Or begin a process of liberating yourself from something. But I'll tell you what, being in a situation where you are dependent on living your life a certain way so you can pay your rent for something that you'll never own, that is a pretty unhealthy, energy draining experience. And I can understand why people would be angry or upset living that experience and how they can project that onto other people. Because man truly wants to be free inside, even if he argues that he can't or that he doesn't want to. Man truly should be living a more free life. And us men shouldn't be fighting each other. The men and women shouldn't be fighting each other. We should be experiencing, now let's talk about relationships as I close here. We should be in love right now. And the very fact that so many people are suffering is indicative of a much larger problem on the planet. Now let's not lose ourselves in our own misery over our own loneliness. And let's seek to understand the human condition. Let's go all the way. At least let's desire that in our minds. Let's go all the way. Why are we in these circumstances? What kind of a reality is this where biologically men and women are sexually attracted to each other, and we see so many partial half men and women that aren't really men and women, they're boys and girls in adult bodies. And we see the sociopaths seemingly outpopulating the empaths, or those with feelings, those with empathy, those with consciousness or a conscious. What kind of a realm is this really? A realm where so many people worship nature. How spiritual is the nature of how things really are on the earth? Spiritual. the nature around us is beautiful in contrast to the grid. But in and of itself, it is an artificial construct. Just like our bodies, just like our genitalia, just like the very things that draw us to each other and cause people to live with one another, to team up. Basically, like animals in some cases, instead of actual lovers, even if they're actually having sex. But just enjoying one's body, just enjoying that act, just enjoying palling up with some person does not mean that you have palled up with a conscious human being who actually knows the inherent difference between what is right and what is wrong. And there are so many people in this society that are shacked up with someone who's actually worshiping themselves, worshiping money, worshiping materialism. And these are the dominant values on the planet. Until those dominant values change, nothing else will change. Government structures will only get bigger and bigger. Police forces will only become more violent to enforce the rules and regulations of the state, which most men and women support and defend, and will defend until their death. So let go of any insanity that you may be holding at this time that we're going through or will go through a collective positive shift in consciousness. You, the individual, has been quantum leaped to this realm to do that work. A great work that no one can do for you. I'm Alex Hansley signing off from nature in rural Southwest Washington. We'll talk to you next time.